What's up, y'all? I feel like it's been forever. Sorry for the delays. Not really though. I'm just over here living and I'm having a good time doing it. So I'm not sorry for the delays, but I did miss you and I'm glad to come back. And as is usual, I found myself sitting here talking to myself out loud and was like, let me share that message. So as many of you know, yesterday and today was my birthday. It's my birthday in the US today, or almost over on the East Coast, but still happening on the West Coast. And it's my birthday in New Zealand yesterday. And I solicited, which I unashamedly do often, or relatively regularly. I solicited people to send me affirmations or to remind me of my impact in their lives, or the impact of my work in their lives, or, something that stood out to them about, our journey together. Because those things are really helpful for me, and they really, they fill my tank. They're beautiful. And sometimes, I can get lost in the muddle of my own head, right? And my own stories about whether or not I'm important or my work is important and blah, 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 blah. And what that does is it really allows me the space to affirm what is true. To affirm what is true outside of my story, right? Which is that, I am loved. I am loved and I matter in the world. And so sometimes I ask for that. So I just got one from a friend, and it reminded me of this thing. People do this all the time. And this is actually the thing I want to talk to you about, is people will say, people who I've spent lifetimes with, like significant time, not just on the internet, or even let's say on the internet, but we've been communicating on the internet for years. And people will say, I know I barely know you. And I think that is such a misguided notion. And what it leads me to want to say to people is stop minimizing who you are in other people's lives. Stop assuming yourself smaller in other people's lives, and assuming your impact in other people's lives is smaller. And this is coming to me in multiple ways, right? So part of what that does, when we assume that our impact is minimal in other people's lives, we're also less conscious about the way that we move in other people's lives. And it makes us reckless. Like, that's how harm happens, in part because we minimize the impact. So if we are present with, what Queen Mother Octavia Butler says, right, which was everything we touch, we change, and everything we change changes us. The only constant is change. God is change, right? And so if we are always knowing that we are impacting someone, that we are always impacting, then we get to raise to the level of consciousness how that impact happens. But here's the other piece about that I really want to sit with, right? Particularly this person who I knew and, know from the Poetry Slam community. And I just thought it was so interesting, this idea of we barely know each other. And I was like, I did slam for a cool decade. Performance poetry was 10 years of my life. And I did it intensely, right? Like, I competed on national stages year after year after year. I competed on teams. I went to individuals. Slam was a huge part of my life. And so if you know me from slam, then you know a huge part of my life, right? So it's not that we hardly know each other. You know my love for words and language. You know my competitive nature. You know what I did with my summers for 10 years, every August. You know how much I love being on stage. You might know some shady shit I did on the low. If you spent that part of the world with me, you know me. Not all of me, not the fullness, because we can't know the fullness of anyone, right? But you know it is a significant part of who I am. If you know me from the internet and all you know are these messages that I see, there is an enormous part of who I am that you do know. You know that I believe in communicating my messages. You know that I'm vulnerable sometimes and afraid. You know that part of the way that I move through things is asking other people to move through them with me. You know important parts of me. And what would happen if we treated each other in these interactions like someone gave me a precious part of them? How might we cherish each other differently if we stopped minimizing, right, the ways in which we know people, and assuming that because you don't come to my house every weekend or we don't talk every day, that you don't know some important part of who I am. I think that could really transform the way in which we choose to be with each other. I think it would make us so much more responsible with the hearts and minds and care of one another. I think that it gives the opportunity for a deeper knowing of the innate connection of all of us in this tapestry of humanity. And so I really invite you to stop saying that to people. Like, oh, I know I barely know you, because you know them from a specific part of their life. That specific part of their life is still part of them. So it's okay to say, like, I know you in this context, or I know this about you, but there's no need to shrink that. Which I think sometimes people want to, say because they don't want to feel like they're, overstepping their boundaries. Amanda Sills says this all the time, and I appreciate this from her. We are each other's business. We are each other's business. So stop minimizing who you are in other people's lives. Stop minimizing other people's roles in your life. Recognize that we are constantly in a web of impacting and changing each other. And let's become responsible for that. Word.